now to welcome David Kok from the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, where I did my fellowship 8 years ago, to present a talk entitled Big Horizons, Moving Radiation Oncology Education into the Mainstream. Thanks, David.
Thanks very much, Joanne. And yeah, it's very interesting to see how small the world is, with Joanne having been through the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre before. This isn't my first time in Chicago, but I always welcome any opportunity to come back, so thank you very much for that, Dan. I work out of the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, which is this building here at the top. It's one of the largest oncology centres, the first oncology centre in Australia, and I think it may be one of the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a 16 LINAC department. The Red Centre, which I've shown over here, is just in the tradition of making sure that you all see pictures of where we come from. This is actually many, many hundreds of miles from where I work, so unfortunately not there that close. But look, today, I think what's been really interesting to see is that as we've been going through the talks, both in the ones in the United States, but also the global ones more recently, is to see the fact that oncology education really has similar problems everywhere. And I'm not going to labour, I think, all of these points because we've gone through it, but I've actually tried to pull some local data from you guys here. So this is a publication from looking at medical students and the amount of mandatory rotations that people have as medical students as they go through their medical school. And down here you can see a little bit of a wasteland that essentially medical oncology, radiation oncology, paediatric oncology, all the oncology specialties, the median number of rotation weeks was 0. So that's across the general oncology fields, but also with radiation oncology specifically. So again, I guess I'm a radiation oncologist, even though my interest is in general oncology education. This I've pulled from one particular paper. There may even be authors from that particular paper here about the comfort that people have in terms of knowing when to refer to radiation oncology is extremely poor. So in Australia we have these problems just like everyone else, and so I'm really here to talk about 2 different programs that we run down there, which are obviously founded in Australia, but they really have a global focus, which I think is kind of the interest here. So they're the Master of Cancer Sciences and the Targeting Cancer program. Some of these you'll be familiar with, particularly those of you who are on Twitter. The Master of Cancer Sciences is the program which I run myself. And radiation oncology targeting cancer is one which I'm involved in, but not actively leading. And they're different in that the Master of Cancer Sciences is a tertiary academic program, so it's a full master's degree. It covers the full range of oncology knowledge, so that's med-onc, rad-onc, surg-onc, as well as preventative health, molecular biology, research skills. And that's only just been launched, so we launched that in February of this year after quite a lot of late nights, and it's a wholly online program. The idea of that is essentially because we know that the majority of people who are going to be looking at doing this are going to be doing it as well as other work. The Targeting Cancer program is different. It's a public awareness program, and this is radiation oncology specific as opposed to the master's program. And essentially the idea is it goes through it's delivered through a range of means and media, but trying to increase both public awareness as well as practitioner awareness about what we actually do in radiation oncology. So this is trying to break down, sorry the slider, I didn't do it on a Mac, so it doesn't predict perfectly. But is looking at the 2 different programs and how they're looking at it. So the Master of Cancer Sciences is aimed at a practitioner audience. So depth of detail is high, and that's for family practitioners, nurses, allied health scientists and oncologists. And that's, I mean, obviously being a tertiary academic program in this area. But where we don't go to with the Masters of Cancer Sciences is into the public arena, and that's where the Targeting Cancer program works. The Targeting Cancer program looks at the patient and general public audience, as well as looking at the general audience. Obviously the level of depth that we go into in that program is less. But where you can think of the complementary nature of these is that in terms of audience size, then because it's a public program, which is for everybody, then it's being seen by a lot of people, whereas if you're going to come into an actual tertiary academic degree, then obviously that's a small portion of people. So I'm going to go through these one at a time and try and be fairly quick about it, given the time limitations. But the Master of Cancer Sciences, I guess what the point here is that it's a real collaboration. So it's partially government funded, 50% government funded, and runs across many different institutions in the Alliance. So there's essentially there have been people from every state in Australia who've contributed to the teaching of this, even though it's based within Melbourne and Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre and Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre. The way that it's structured is it's a 2-year degree, so it's basically a 2-year part-time degree, but it's also designed so that people can come in and out of it. So there's essentially, if you do 2 terms or 6 months, then you can leave with a specialist certificate, and the idea is that's for sort of family practitioners, nurses, people who've got less time on their hands to come in and if you did 4 terms or a year, then you'd leave with a graduate certificate, and you stay for the whole 2 years, then you actually get the master's degree. And this might be of interest to yourself, Thomas, and you're talking about your sort of the way that you're looking to try and upskill different audiences. And I think this is very much one of the thought processes we had in our mind to try and answer questions that are globally going on in terms of trying to upskill oncology. Subjects, there's 10 cancer-specific subjects, and these deal with things like, well, the whole gamut of preventative subjects, there's cancer therapeutic subjects, there's public health subjects, but in addition to those, there's what we call the extended suite. So this is trying to look at, and again, answers some of the questions about, so there's biostatistics, there's leadership, there's end-of-life issues, which we've tried to put in there, which people can electively choose to do. So this is where I'm going to go with the show rather than tell principle. So this is a little video. It's a little bit advertising type in the way it runs, but hopefully it will work for us today. Yeah, that one. And I guess that's, so my training was in curriculum design and e-learning, so we very much tried to incorporate e-learning and really sort of cutting-edge delivery devices for this. So hopefully that will show when the video runs.
Welcome to the Master of Cancer Sciences.
We're going to discuss how removal of inhibitory factors from this side of the equation can lead to tipping of the scales further in favour of cellular proliferation and growth.
We're often thinking about the tumour characteristics. How big is the tumour? Has it spread to the draining lymph nodes? How aggressive is the tumour?
I will discuss one of the most exciting technological breakthroughs in cancer research.
CRISPR, a relatively new gene editing technique, and a hot topic area that many people believe is going to revolutionise medicine.
I aim to give you some insights and some tips and tricks I wish I had known when I had started out as a researcher.
Can you tell us a bit about what inspired you to lead this subject?
Yeah, I love education. I love explaining things to people, the interaction.
One is they need treatment. Another one is that they're liable to misunderstand the information.
Then we can look at that particular graph we've produced and try and apply a mathematical model to it to explain why it's doing what it's doing.
These breakthrough methods will enable you to make a difference to those most affected sooner.
That's our little smash. So that's kind of a little bit of what the Masters is all about. And so again, there's been a significant amount of efforts which have gone to getting that where it is now. There are enrollees, even though it just started this year, from North America already. It's largely, obviously it's an English-speaking course, so it's one which a whole variety of different people, but limited to that English-speaking background at this point can access. So now I'm going to go through the Targeting Cancer campaign really quickly. So hopefully this is one which you will have encountered at some point. So again, this is a public advocacy campaign. And it's delivered through a range of different means. I won't have time to go through all of these today. But the official website is one. This was launched a number of years ago now, 5 years ago, and you can see in the graph down the bottom the sort of increase in traffic over time. So in 1 month at the moment, this site churns out about 15,000 visits. And North America, I believe, is actually our second most country from the source of visits. So it goes to show that there's people coming from everywhere. And the idea is, again, this tries to provide information on what radiotherapy is to both a public audience and to a general practitioner and internal medicine type audience. There is a national GP education program as part of this. GPs is what we call family practitioners in Australia. And the idea is similarly, these are short 2-hour sessions where people come in, so they learn a little bit more about what actually happens in departments, see what a machine actually is, and trying to increase their familiarity with what goes on in radiation oncology. And what else do we? And social media. So we do have a global reach. I've picked out a number of photos there. For those of you who are on Twitter, please do. I didn't put in the thing there, but it's Targeting Cancer. If you look it up, we've got ambassadors all over the globe. After this, I'll hopefully pull out a few of the hats which I've got in my bag and take a photo here, so we can add Chicago to the list. And essentially, I guess the idea is trying to increase awareness through the multiple different means, including social media. So I guess the last thing I'm going to do is just show you yet another video, and this is just an ad which we're running. So this is a sort of traditional media ad which we have about radiotherapy, and I just like it. I think it's one of our, there's been a few which we've produced, as a group produced again. I can't claim ownership for all of this, but it just sort of to demonstrate what we're trying to do in the general public.
My target is to retire and travel around Australia in a caravan with my husband.
My target is to see my 6 grandchildren grow up.
My target is to see Ian, my son, play the Socceroos.
Our target is to watch our boys grow.
My target is to leave this beautiful country a little bit better than I found it.
My target is the cancer.
Your targets are what inspire us to hit ours. Radiation therapy is now more precise and effective than ever before. For more information, go to targetingcancer.com.au or ask your doctor.
And so with that, I think that was it for my talk. Obviously, I'd love the opportunity to talk to anyone who's interested in, discussing further these programs. We only had a fairly limited amount of time to go through them today. And there are many acknowledgements, many acknowledgements, only of which a proportion I've managed to list here. Thank you.